In the first part of this video, I talk about the most important principle or thing in parenting, which is addressing how we are before we take action, meaning being is greater than doing. 80% of our awareness should be on our own psychology, and then 20% should be on strategy. Because we could have a great strategy, but if our psychology is kind of warped, or if, let's say, we're frustrated and angry or not aware of it, and we say that we're curious and open, then that comes across as gaslighting, kids feel manipulated, and it's a whole mess, right? So 80% psychology, 20% strategy. How you are is more important than what you say or what you do. Address how you are first. Then, once you shift your own state, your own feelings, your own way of being, you're going to have an open mindset to come up with a great strategy. You'll search things on YouTube like this, and you'll be drawn to and find things that'll actually be effective for you, as opposed to things that are going to come from like coaches who work with bitter parents, right? I don't work with bitter parents. I work with bitter parents who want to not be bitter. But if you're looking for someone who's going to help your kids perform like robots, it's not me. You play a huge role in how they are and who they are. And if you can shift and become the kind of person that you want your kids to be, then, oh my gosh, you really unlock a huge maelstrom of energy in a helpful way, of impact, of influence with your kids in a beautiful way, So here's something I want to share. This really important way of accessing that, how we can shape our kids, all right? This is the assignment. I don't do a lot of assignments in these videos, but this one's a really good one, right? So I reserve it for a really important piece. What a critical thing to do is sit down and make a list, or just think to yourself right now. Make a list of all the qualities in your children that are problematic or unhelpful, and especially that you don't like. Like maybe you don't like that they're selfish sometimes. And I mean, if they're kids, if they're children, it's more age appropriate. But if they're a teenager and they're still being very selfish and self-absorbed, again, maybe to an extent appropriate for a teenager, right? But if they're really selfish as a young adult, let's say, or self-absorbed as a young adult, if in their teenagehood they are spiteful or revenge-oriented, if they're gossipy, take a look at yourself. This shouldn't be too hard because you probably get triggered by your kids sometimes, which is okay. You're still a human with a body and a mind, and you have your limitations just like I do, and we're all evolving, right? So take some freedom to look at and be honest with yourself around what really irritates you about your kids or what really scares you about your kids. Like maybe you have some teenagers or some young adults who take exorbitant risks that put their own safety at risk. Maybe they're using drugs, but look at the qualities of which really scare you or trigger you, right? Again, being self-absorbed, being selfish. What else could they be? That they're really sad. They're sad too much of the time. They isolate too much. They're too addicted to being around people. Addicted to their phones. We don't want to look at behaviors. We want to look at qualities of the personality. So if they're addicted to their phones, maybe they're not okay with being with themselves. Maybe they feel really insecure, right? So looking below the behaviors. What else could they do? They overeat or they don't eat enough. Maybe they have a highly critical lens of their body, right? Maybe they're really critical of other people. So I'm giving you a lot of different ideas here, and make sure that you have a good bucket of what these qualities are that you don't appreciate, that are unhelpful, that you don't like, that trigger you, again, emotionally trigger you. And this is going to be really important for you to have some specific examples, okay? So once you have that, make sure you have that. I'm going to pause here for a moment and let you finish writing or thinking, because if you do the next thing, it won't work, all right? I'm watching you out there in the future. This is past Jivandas here. All right, so you've got some things. Fantastic. Take a few minutes, pause the video if you need to. And by the way, we all have these things that we get triggered by. I have them. I'm a monk and I'm on a path of spiritual transformation. I've been doing this for 8 years. I've been in transformational work for 17 years. I mean, this is like the bedrock of my life, and I still get triggered and I get scared about people that I care about doing things, right? So it's okay, right? So take a look. Okay, now, the things that we worry about or that trigger us, most in them, we have those inside of us too. Okay? Now, you might say, hold on a second there, Jivan Das. I am not a violent person. My kids can be physically violent, and I'm never physically violent. Okay, fine. I bet, however, you're emotionally violent towards yourself. Most people that can't stand being mean or angry or furious or abusive towards someone else, verbally or physically, they are verbal, at least inside of themselves, they're abusive towards themselves because they can't imagine how they could do that to anyone else. And most people turn that energy, that emotional energy towards themselves, right? As just an example. Yeah. So look at for yourself how you can be like all of those qualities that you saw. Look and see how you can be selfish, how you can be self-absorbed, how you can be irritated, how you can be not like your body the way that it looks, how you can be insecure, right? It doesn't mean that you are those things, but because we're humans, we have the great blessing, and it doesn't feel like a blessing all the time, but the great blessing to experience all of life. We can be jealous and we can be joyful. We can be happy and we can be depressed. We can be inspired and we can feel like we want to end our lives, right? I mean, it is wild how we can experience all these things. So if you give yourself the freedom to, and the honesty and transparency to really look for yourself, how am I like this sometimes? And if you say that I'm never like this, it means that you're not aware enough. And believe me, I didn't think I was like many things long ago. And everyone that I've ever worked with who said I'm never like that, through working together and through them doing some of their own personal work, they've been able to see like, wow, I am really selfish sometimes. Here's an example of someone being selfish that you might think is judgmental, but it's true. People who carry a lot of shame, and I'm one of those people as an example, a lot of shame, think that we're always doing things wrong, think that nothing we can do is really right. Whenever there's a conflict, we sort of absorb the blame. Maybe you're like me, maybe you know someone like this. That's a really selfish, self-absorbed way to walk through the world. It's not, everything is not our fault. And by the way, shame is also an expression of arrogance. Why? Because we think we're right about things, right? I think that I don't deserve love if I walk through the world with lots of shame. I don't think that I deserve care or people's time or energy sometimes. I used to feel this way in my life, right? So there are these ways, if we really take an honest look with ourselves and receive a little bit of guidance, we can see how we have all of these qualities in ourselves. Now, why would you do this? So why am I asking you to take this, 10 minutes of your life and do this exercise? Because if you can see for yourself, oh, I'm like that too sometimes, you unlock a degree of humility that allows you to connect with your kid, meaning you don't judge them for how they are. You get a greater degree of grace with how they are and accepting the behavior without accepting that they are that way, right? It gives you a moment of pause and a little bit of a gap to look at, okay, God, they are so selfish. Okay, I can be selfish sometimes too. I wonder why they're being like that. And in that moment where you say, I wonder why, what propels them, what has them want to be selfish? Maybe they don't want to, maybe it's just a habit or a pattern. Why are they selfish? Why would they do that? It gives you just a little bit of a gap between judging them or being reactive about it or getting upset about it or worrying about the person that they're going to be. And oh my God, they're going to be selfish their whole life. Are they going to have kids and they're going to be selfish towards their kids? Are they going to get divorced? Are they going to die? Yeah, right? You know what I mean? So it just gives you a moment to be like, you know what? I can be selfish sometimes. I can be arrogant sometimes. I've felt depressed sometimes. Some days I do feel sad. I really do feel sad. And I cover it up by like going on long runs, or I cover it up by watching TV or going on my phone, or I cover it up, whatever. I cover up emotions just like they do. They're addicted to their phone. Oh my God, what am I addicted to? Am I addicted to feeling bad? Am I addicted to sex? Am I addicted to porn? Am I addicted to other things besides my phone? Do I read all the time? Do I meditate compulsively? Probably not you. It's not me either, by the way. I did it one time in my life, but not anymore. So look for yourself, right? And really take a big bite, maybe in a big healthy piece of humble pie, and know that you can be like the way that they are. right? That you can be that way, that you have these characters of your personality. They don't define you, they won't define your future, but I can tell you, as someone who is joyful almost every day, and days that I'm not, I'm really okay not being joyful, and I find peace still within that. You can do this, and you will become such a wonderful person, and thus a great parent. The more that you can be transparent with yourself, right, and understand yourself, this will give you greater access to shifting how you are emotionally. I mean, this will unlock your life. I'm telling you, if you practice this. So give it a shot. Give a thumbs up or subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Leave me some comments. I'm really curious to hear what you think of the videos, or if you have questions. I love producing content to help parents and young people ultimately. And all my best.